And are we talking about, and I want to make this frame very clear here, because, well, I'll explain why I'm asking this. Are we talking about the Van Gogh at the end? Is that an understanding of the personality system we're using? Or is that an understanding of people and the types they bring into the world? Because one could argue, well, like a system like socionics that really dives into all the nuance and the detail, well, that's the Van Gogh we're talking about, right? That's where we're all headed. I don't think that's exactly what we're saying. We're not saying fleshing out a system so that there's now like 6,000 different particular types that can show up from the basic 16, although that could be sophisticated. We're talking more about an understanding of people, the self and people in a more rich way.
Yeah, well, in some ways, the perpetual slicing, there's value in that too, but I would say that that's putting everything down into, it's almost like cube art at that point, right? It's like when the definitions get really, 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 really precise, I think that you can have a beautiful complex system, and it's more like making all of these dark lines into very small cubes, and you can actually see a better picture that way. It's like a more fleshed out picture, but it's not the thing I'm talking about, which is there are no lines.
Yeah.
Right? There's just characteristics that are pressed up against other characteristics that then give you a picture of something. Like there's no real line around the moon in Starry, Starry Night. There's just where the yellow ends and the blue starts, right? And there's no clear, real definition except that you can see that they sort of blend and bleed into each other. And at one point, the yellow is completely gone and the blue has started, right?
Yeah.
Or it's all blue. And then it's not even all blue. It's like blue and black. And I think this is not just an understanding of the system. It's an understanding of how the system actually shows up in humans, because that's us, right? There's no moment when my extroverted intuition or exploration as a person with ENTP preferences, there's no real clear line of where it ends and my introverted thinking or accuracy begins. They just sort of overlay each other, and they're so colored by each other. They're so influenced by each other. In some ways, I don't have a pure expression of extroverted intuition or exploration. And we can see that because there are reasons why you and I sharing the same dominant or driver function, there are many reasons why they show up differently. But one of the major ones is that we're pairing it with a different co-pilot or auxiliary function.
Yeah.
Right? When does your extroverted intuition or exploration end and your introverted feeling or authenticity begin? Right?
Yeah.
So that's how it plays out in humans, is kind of a smushing, right? There's no real clear lines.
But to learn it, we have to break it all apart. We have to silo it to understand these things. But we can't stay there. We have to put things back together then and look at the human again.
That's right. Yeah. Because the more we silo them out and talk about them as if they don't have relationships with each other, like that's when we stay in a theoretical place.
Yeah.
That's interesting, but the rubber never hits the road at that place. There's no application there. And there is a lot of value in understanding the functions and the nucleus of them and really fleshing them out on that level. There's value, but the value is truncated. It's unnecessarily limited if we just keep it at that level and never actually see how it's playing out in our life.